Another 5-minute mystery.
Homicide Bureau, Sergeant Timmons speaking.
Sergeant, this is Ken Forbes of the Lawson Forbes Machinery Company.
Yes?
You better send one of your men out here to our factory right away.
Accident?
Yeah, worse than that. It's about a young ex-convict we have working here. He just murdered Mr. Lawson.
Hello? Are you Mr. Forbes? What? I say, are you the Mr. Forbes that called police? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm Forbes. It's an extremely rush order I'm working on. I couldn't afford to let it wait. I understand, yes. If you'll just follow me, Inspector. Mr. Lawson's in his office over here, officer. Just like I found him after Joseph shot him. There's the body. Shot through the head, This the gun? Yes, Lawson's own gun. A pretty small gun for a man to have. Usually you only find these in a woman's purse. Didn't you say this Joseph was an ex-convict, Mr. Forbes? That's right, officer. I warned Lawson about hiring someone with a police record, but he ignored me. Why? Well, where is this Joseph? Did he get away? I have him locked in the washroom here, so he couldn't run away. Here, come on out. Well, haven't you anything to say, Joseph?
What's the use? What good would it do me to say I didn't do it? Who'd believe me, an ex-con?
Why'd you do it?
I didn't do it. I was working on the milling machine, and Mr. Forbes knows it.
Officer, I heard Lawson giving Joseph the devil just before this happened. He'd been in the office for...
That's a lie.
It's not a lie. You had been snooping. I saw you going through the checking accounts 2 days ago,
Mr. Lawson asked me to help him audit the accounts.
That's a poor alibi. Ask you. Why wouldn't he have his own partner help him on the audit? You were just snooping. He probably caught you this afternoon, and you, knowing where Lawson kept his gun, got it and shot him. Forbes, what were you doing all the time the squabble was going on? I was operating that chain of automatic punch presses over there in the corner. As I told you when you came in, it's a rush order. And how did you know about this? Well, I heard Lawson giving Joseph here a good lacing. Joseph seemed pretty sullen. Then all of a sudden, I heard a shot. I ran into the office and found Lawson slumped back in his chair, blood running from his temples.
I didn't do it, officer. Just because I was set up once for some childish prank, you can't accuse me of murder.
I'm not accusing you, Joseph, but I am arresting Mr. Forbes for the murder of his partner.
What clue did the officer uncover that turned the finger of guilt on Mr. Forbes? We'll find out in one moment, but first... And now, back to the homicide officer and the solution.
Forbes, you said you were operating those punch presses when you heard Lawson arguing with Joseph. Then you heard the shot. I did. This gun being so small makes very little noise, yet you say you heard it over there in the corner with all those punch presses going. Forbes, you couldn't have heard a shot because just a few minutes ago, you couldn't hear me for all the noise, and I was shouting right into your ears. No, Forbes, your ears aren't that good, and neither is your alibi.
Another 5-minute mystery. Egypt. Night. Silhouetted against the amber sky stands the cold and foreboding tomb of Prince Fede Ki-Am. At the entrance of the tomb stand the figures that compose the Campbell expedition.
Open, Campbell. Good. Well, gentlemen, are you all ready?
Indeed we are, yes.
Good. Dr. Martin, you go first.
As you wish.
I'm right, Penier.
Right.
Bill Crane.
Yes, sir.
And I'll take up the rear.
Boy, is it dark in here.
What'd you expect in a tomb? Sunlight?
I wonder what would happen if we got lost in here.
You know, Pena, you always manage to come up with the nicest thoughts.
Why are we stopping?
There are 4 passages branching out here.
Oh, that's just fine.
I suppose the only thing that we can do is to each take a passage and see where it leads to. How does that sound?
Sensible to me.
All right. To do.
All right, then. And if you find anything, just shout and we'll all come running.
Boy, it really is dark in here. I wonder where all these passages lead to. Oh, well. Good Lord. What was that?
What happened?
Hey,
what was that shot?
What's happened?
What was that
Dr. Martin,
shot?
what's happened to Campbell?
Well, he's been shot, I guess. I was exploring that other tunnel when I heard a shot. I came running and found Campbell like this.
But who shot him?
And he must have shot himself.
But his gun is still in his holster.
Yes, he must have tripped on this loose gravel, and the gun went off when he fell.
Well, come on. We can't let him lie here. Help me carry him out.
Well, gentlemen. I've examined him.
And?
I was right. The bullet I took out of his body was fired from Campbell's own gun.
I'm sorry to hear you say that.
Why? What do you mean?
Just that I'm holding you, Dr. Martin, for Campbell's murder.
What single clue led Crane to believe that Dr. Martin killed Campbell? In just a moment, we'll give you the solution. But first... And now, back to our story.
But Campbell wasn't murdered. He shot himself.
That's what you try to make us believe.
What do you mean?
Just this. You said Campbell shot himself when he fell. But his gun was in his holster.
Well,
anyone knows you can't fire a gun until you've drawn back the firing pin. But what you forgot is that no one has the firing pin released when they're carrying a gun in a holster.
But that just proves that Campbell was murdered. It doesn't prove that I killed him.
Oh, yes, it does, Mr. Martin. You just told us that the bullet you removed from Campbell's body was fired from his gun. But that's impossible. Therefore, you switched bullets. An innocent man wouldn't have done that. No, Dr. Martin. That one clue proves that you and you alone murdered Campbell.
Another 5-minute mystery.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Deputy.
Ted just called in and said he'd be late. Springfield bus from Cleveland broke down just outside of Cleveland and won't be in till 11 o'clock.
Well, I guess you and I can handle what little business we get here in Springville until then. Oh, Sheriff's Office. Speaking. James Coburn shot? Be right there.
Sheriff, the bullet entered his right temple just over the eye, passing through the head and made its exit from the back of the neck.
I knew this would happen to James.
You knew this would happen, Miss Alice?
Yes. You see, Sheriff, some man in Cleveland had attempted to blackmail James because of an earlier romance. And James had threatened to turn the blackmailer over to the police. Because of that, his life was threatened. I had him come here to Springville to hide out for a while.
Deputy, have any strange men been reported in town the last few days, or have you seen any suspicious characters that might have been trying to locate James Coburn?
Oh, haven't heard of a soul, except some bum that must have dropped off a freight. A short, swarthy-looking guy.
That sounds just like the Cleveland man. James described him to me one day.
Don't recall anyone saying he'd inquired about Coburn.
James always seemed like a pretty upright man to me.
Oh, James was a very quiet man, Sheriff. He was just unfortunate enough to have been tied up with this affair in his youth. And then this gangster had to try a shakedown on him and ruin all our happiness. We were to be married. We were going to be married tomorrow and go to Cincinnati to live. James had a job offered him there.
I'm sorry. This has been a shock to you, then.
Yes, it has, Sheriff. James had written me last week. He asked me to come on the 8:30 bus today. Then we were going on to Cincinnati this afternoon. Oh, I was so happy. I packed all my things and left Cleveland on the bus early this morning. I rushed right out here only to find him dead. Oh, if only he'd gone to Cincinnati months ago as I begged him.
It would have been just the same, Miss Alice.
Well, it couldn't have been. He'd have been safe there.
No. No, you'd have tracked him there and murdered him, just like you did here.
Do you know why the sheriff accused Alice of murdering James Coburn? In just a moment, we shall find out. But first... And now for the solution to our mystery.
Alice, James Coburn was shot by someone facing him as he sat in the chair. Obviously, someone from whom he didn't fear violence, therefore not a man. You were the blackmailer if anyone was, Alice. He probably laughed at your threats today, went back to reading, and you shot him. You said that you arrived this morning at 8:30 on the bus from Cleveland. You couldn't have. That bus broke down, and one of my own deputies is still stranded outside of Cleveland on that bus. Come along.